Services Office, and we'll have our other staff introduce themselves as we move along. Just a few protocols for our virtual meeting tonight. We are going to be recording the meeting so we can put it on the project website for those who aren't able to join us. And just to help with some of that recording, we're just going to ask that you remain muted with your videos off during the presentation, but then we will have an open question and answer period where then you're able to engage with us a little bit more. And si quieres, puedes mandar preguntas en español por el chat. So again, thank you for joining us, and I'm going to turn it over to Ambika for the presentation.
Thank you so much, Sana. My name is Ambika Hit, Community Development Principal Planner in the Planning Division. Me and Robbie Aaron, my colleague, will be making the presentation. We welcome everyone. Prior to doing that, I wanted to ask the Deputy Director of Community Development, Ryan Levick, to say a few words of welcome. Ryan?
Yes, thank you, Ambika. Well, welcome everyone to our second session of Character Area Planning for Character Area 1, North Tempe. I'm excited about this process for you all, and I hope you guys all stay engaged. There's multiple platforms for you to be involved via emails, web communication, and we're hoping that there's a potential for in-person meetings coming this summer. So we look forward to that. This will be a year-long process, and we hope you stay involved to the end. Thank you very much for all your participation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ryan. So I'm just sharing the screen. We have a brief presentation that I will begin. Sana, you can see my presentation, right?
Yes, but it's not in presentation mode. It's in, if you want to do that.
I did put it on the presentation mode. Let me try again. Is it any better? Same thing?
Same thing.
Anyway, this is how it is showing here. So anyway, welcome everyone one more time. We have quite a few staff. Later on, like Sana mentioned, the protocol is if you have any questions, comments, you can go ahead and type it on the chat box. And later on, we'll also open it for the questions. You can also go live and raise your hands and speak to it. We have a brief presentation that we will do at today's meeting. We exactly had the same meeting at noon today. And this is the 6 p.m., the second meeting on the Character Area 1. The agenda today, as you saw, we have welcome and staff introductions. And then we will review the outcomes of the kickoff meeting we did on March 15th. We had 2 meetings on that day. And the online survey that was put online from March 15th to April 4th. We'll give a quick review of that survey. And then Robbie will explain the Dotocracy on how we collect your preferences going forward for the plan. And then we'll give you a quick overview of the next steps and timeline. And at the end, we'll have a question and answer and discussions. There's a website that is available. You can take a look at that website anytime, the characterareas.tempe.gov. And then you will also find the Dotocracy uploaded there today. Just for the people who are joining us new, we've talked about it before. The city of Tempe is divided into 8 different character areas. The solid color ones, the 5 ones, number 3, 4, 5, 7, and 8, the plans have been completed. The gray color, number 2 and 6, we intend to do the plan in future. Right now, we're working on that character area plan number 1, which is on the north, shown on the orange stripes. Just a quick overview of the geographical and population comparison of Character Area 1 vis-a-vis the entire city of Tempe. Character Area 1 is about 8% of the total area of the city of Tempe, about 3.5 square miles. Population-wise, about 10,000 in 2019 compared to about 195,000 in 2019 for city of Tempe. All the other indicators are pretty similar. The median household income in Character Area 1 is slightly less than the average income. This graph is a little busy. There's a lot of information that was extracted from the American Community Survey and also the Census 2011 and all the updates all the way until 2020. giving the breakdown of the population, the trend in housing rates, the median income of housing, the age of the housing, lots of information. We will update all of this as we go along because now we have the 2020 census data available. The status of the character area plan for this one is after the 2 kickoff meetings on March 15th. Today is the second series of meetings, and we'll continue to hold pop-up meetings. We'll come to your neighborhood association and other meetings that are already happening. And Robbie will explain the survey that will be available on site all the way to June 30, 2021. Just a quick recap on the character area plan for anyone who is new today. It's a high-level vision and policy plan. It's not regulatory. It is something that advances the council priorities of City of Tempe. And please do remember that the planning process is collaborative between the city, residents, and stakeholders. And in terms of its content, we give the introduction and backgrounds, but bulk of the planning is the design and planning principles, which can be referred to as we review the design and planning application for the area and also for the community to know that here is a plan that includes the principles and vision for the area for future. So the tentative content in the character area plan would be after the scope and the vision. There will be a discussion about the character defining elements that we'll been putting together based on what we've heard from you and based on the professional assessment. And at the end, there will be design guidelines and principles on the major topics that are listed here, for example, on walkability, bikeability, multi-use trails, and so on. Now, I'm going to quickly review the outcomes of the kickoff meeting of March 15. There were many questions about, this is a metadata about the respondents. Younger people mostly responded. We also asked for the preference on the meeting, and we're following with those kind of preference on what you do like on the weeknights. And then also the virtual versus in-person meeting will continue to evolve as the pandemic recedes. On the kickoff, we did have a welcome remark by the mayor. And after the staff presented and introduced the character area planning process, we had a pretty robust interactive discussion between the attendees. We were able to respond to the questions that the attendees posed. And then we put the 2-week-long online survey. And the input that is gathered is actually going to help us go forward and help us devise the plan. Now, some of the main elements that we gathered, both from the meeting on March 15th and also from the responses that you have on the online survey, which, by the way, was very well responded to. I think there were 91 people who actually responded, 161 people who viewed the survey. We had asked many questions about like listing the preference among the amenities, and people, many of you basically, on number one, you put the canal side trails and multi-use paths. You spoke about enhanced streetscape, shades, bus shelters, and then park enhancement. Those are the top 3. There are many others that you have listed. Similarly, when you asked you what land uses should be increased in the area, open space came number 1, residential came number 2, and groceries and stores came number 3, and others followed. We asked about the top wish list items, that what you'd like to see in the area. There were issues with the homelessness that you talked about, and we do work with the human services on this area. Although the character area plan itself is much more design and planning oriented, but we welcome your concerns. We're very happy to hear about your concerns, and the city staff will work on that, and then we'll coordinate the responses to that. But in terms of the character area itself, you listed drainage area and improvement, parking, streetcar extension, and parks as the top wish list items. And overwhelming majority of you think it's a very attractive area for investment. The design criteria that we wanted you to list in terms of the total number of votes. You spoke about shaded walkways and low height buildings. Some people were okay with the taller buildings, and environmental friendly design, which is very interesting because that's kind of upcoming theme in all the planning that we do. Connected trails, and then again, the issue of the homelessness came. And I just spoke that the human services, sorry about that typo on the slide, are the people who will be helping us with that. On any other thoughts we had asked, you spoke about public art, you listed affordable housing, and you listed increased outreach by the human services. Here is a graphic representation of some of the tabulation of some of the responses that you gave, which I already spoke about. So for example, 68% of the 91 people who responded to this survey listed canal side trails and multi-use path on number 1, and few other things followed. Another example of what kind of land usage you would like to see in the character area 1 area, you listed open space. 60% of the people voted for open space as number 1, and then residential. I spoke briefly about it, but here is a visual that is graphic, easy to see. Also at the actual meeting on March 15th, on the Kickoff meeting, many people spoke very passionately on what they like and what they want to hear. And when there was a question on what elements sets this site apart, in other words, what are some of the character giving traits of this particular area, many of you listed some trees, different types of trees like mesquite trees, Tempe Town Lake, Papago Park, rolling hills, and some other important icons and highlights of the area. And as an example, when we asked what elements should be preserved, enhanced, changed, or added, then you talked about the county island probably should be annexed, pedestrian walkways should be improved, and then continue to preserve the cacti and the mesquite trees. Only 2 examples that I'm just showing here from the last meeting. All that information is listed on the character area planning website that I just mentioned before. Now, the Dotocracy that I just talked about is something that Robbie Aaron will explain right now, and this survey is also going to be available. Robbie, if you're ready, you can ask me when to move the slides.
Sure. Thank you, Ambika. As Ambika said, my name is Robbie Aaron. I'm a planner in the Long Range Planning Division of Community Development, and I'll be working with Ambika on this plan. Go ahead, Ambika. So as Ambika said, the Dotocracy is for us to determine what the priority categories are that we based off initial survey results. So the way this will work is you all will be allocated dots to determine the priorities for your area. You'll get 10 dots, which you can spend however you want. You can put all the dots on one priority, you can put them on 2 priorities, or you can divvy them up between 10 priorities. That's totally up to you how you want to do it. As I said, the priority categories are based off the initial survey results, also based off of comments that we heard in the initial meetings on March 15th. And last, the Dotocracy survey is open from today until June 30th. So you have some time to really think about what you want to spend your dots on and really dive into what each of those are. Each of the priorities will have a description that goes along with them on the survey forum, so you can get an idea of what we're talking about. Go ahead, next slide. So the priority areas that we are discussing or you'll be voting on are landscape, mobility, connectivity, streetscape, open space, shade, public and private art. Next slide, Ambika. Housing, aging in place, sustainability, canal-oriented development, quality design, balance, land use, and historic preservation. So all these will be in the Dotocracy with, along with a few additional others with for you to vote on with it in the description that kind of goes over them all. So right now we're going to do a real quick poll. you'll want to type this, your answers to this in the chat box. So the question is, do you have any suggestions or additional priorities that we didn't include in the list? You can go ahead and type those in the chat box. We'll give you a few minutes to do so. And this is just to see if, maybe we missed something, glanced over it, but we really want to make sure that we're capturing everything that everybody wants to see.
We'll give you 2 minutes for this, and then we'll carry on. So Robbie, I think you can proceed, and people can continue to put their views on the chat box anytime during the meeting.
Sounds good. I'm going to go to the next slide. So next, Ambika and I will talk about the next steps and timelines. So just a reminder, the survey will be open from May 11th to June 30th. You'll have 10 dots to be used however you want. And as I said, you can spend them all on one priority, or you can divvy them up between however many priorities that you feel you want. From, you can do 10, 9, it's completely up to you. So I'll hand it back to Ambika and he'll go over the rest of the timeline.
Thank you, Robbie. That's very helpful. I only have like another 2 slides left. The next step is, in addition to meeting with you and different groups, we are going to be presenting the introduction of the Character Area 1 plan and those initial things that we have heard from you to different boards and commissions that are relevant to the Character Area planning process. The tentative dates are in the parentheses for at least this one that we have identified, and Sean has already booked these dates. So the first one is Desert Conservation Commission on June 1, and then we'll continue with other commissions, and then to some of the other commissions when they want us, if they want us to come back, we'll also give them an update as the draft becomes available. Definitely to at least the Development Review Commission, Neighborhood Advisory Commission, and a couple other commissions, we will go with the draft also in addition to the introduction that we will do. In terms of timeline, we are kind of pretty much at the initial stage, but moving forward pretty well. Today, May 11th, we have this virtual public 2 meetings talking about the input from the previous meetings, speaking about the design elements and Dotocracy that Robbie Aaron mentioned. The next step, we will go to your community, and then we'll also organize some meetings with the community and stakeholders, and then we'll continue to go to the boards and commission throughout the summer, June, July, August, and then maybe all the way to September. In the fall and winter, we will come up with a draft plan that will make it public so that people can take a look at the whole plan as a draft and give their comments. And then we can also take the plan to the boards and commissions, the relevant boards and commission who need to review it. And finally, at the end of the year, beginning 2022, we'll take it to the council for their decision. The draft plan will be presented to them. That's the presentation we had, pretty short, brief, to the point. You can contact any one of us anytime. Myself, Ambika Hit, Robbie Aaron, Sona Warner. The emails are listed. Our addresses and emails and contacts are listed in the Character Area Plan website also. Now with this, if we have any questions and comments, we are open for discussion.
So please feel free to put any questions in the chat, or you're welcome to unmute yourself and ask a question of Ambika and Robbie.
I have a question.
Sure, Darlene, you want to go ahead?
Yeah, I was sorry, I wasn't able to type this, but I had two suggestions that could possibly be added to the list. One is that we really need in North Tempe a police substation. We're having problems with crime along Scottsdale Road, crime into some of the neighborhoods. People are uneasy about going to the gas stations. The police substation would be great if they had a human services person there also. So safety and that I think is a big concern. That's one. The other one is we have Papago Park Preserve. We have a lot of historic places with Sandra Day O'Connor House, the Eisendrath House, Loma del Rio archaeological site. It would be wonderful if we could have a visitor center, possibly at the Eisendrath House, where we could have trail maps. We could also, at some point, join the Papago Park Preserve to the Maricopa Trail. I will send this in writing also. The Maricopa Trail goes all around Maricopa County, and it actually jets out at several points to the Fort McDowell Preserve or McDowell Mountain Preserve. It jets out to the Fort McDowell Indian Community, Apache Junction, Usury Pass Park, Santan Park. So it jets out to all of those, and yet we're right within the Maricopa Trail, but we need to go along some of the trails and actually have it come into Papago Park Preserve. That would be good for our community. It would be good for visitors from out of state. It'd be good for ASU. So if we had the visitor center and these other items, I will also send it in. So those are my two suggestions that possibly people would like to vote on.
Thank you so much for those suggestions. We've made a note of it. You can also send it to us in writing if you wish. Otherwise, we'll take a note.
Thank you.
About the police substation, obviously, will relate to the police division. And then the other about the visitor centers and the connectivity and the historic preservation that are pretty much we can definitely touch upon them on the character area planning itself. Any staff would like to make any addition to or response to that question? Okay. We've taken a note of that. Thank you so much.
So Ambika, we have a question in the chat. The question is, I live at McKellips College. This area has acreage lots. We get calls weekly from developers for multifamily development. Are there any plans for this area? This area is unique within the city of Tempe.
Ryan, would you be able to take this one?
I'm sorry, where was the location again?
McKellips College. Any plans for multifamily development?
Okay. No, we haven't seen any particular requests specifically, but we always evaluate the plans based on the general plan, projected land use, and projected density. So those are our guiding tools whenever we have applicants, projects come forward on a regular basis. And we make sure that the applicants are also engaged early on with the residents in the process. So we do require neighborhood meetings. So anytime before there's ever a formal proposal or project moving forward, we ask the applicant to provide a neighborhood meeting to get input from the public firsthand.
Thank you, Ryan. I hope that helps.
So if anyone has any other questions, you're welcome to put in the chat or again, unmute yourself and ask your question. So as a follow-up question to that is there's a question if there's any plans to preserve the area.
Okay, so anyone from Park? Craig, are you in the meeting today?
He is not. Michael, maybe if you want to clarify, are you talking about the area at College of McKellips? Or are you, we have a desert preserve in the area at Papago.
And we can certainly get back to you on this in more detail. There is a park master plan. It's about the parks in general.
He's talking about Ambika Hit, the area where he lives, where there are 13 lots. So I guess, Ryan, I don't know if you want to speak to maybe underlying zoning or anything along private property in that area, because those would be up to some of that up to the homeowner.
We can probably have some follow-up communication on that location area there, because I'm not familiar with the zoning district right offhand. But if it's City of Tempe property, we certainly don't have an interest in redeveloping that area. But if it's privately owned property, whether or not the existing property is multifamily zoned already, we'll have to look and evaluate that based on what the general plan projects in that area. So we can certainly provide some follow-up information to share.
Ryan and BIKA, this is Robbie. I just pulled up the zoning map. The zoning up there is ag, AG, single family, everything around it's R16. All of the residential density is single family in nature, and the land use is single family land use. So Michael, to help answer your question, it would take a lot for a developer to come up there and start to change things around. It's not the character of that area, and the city certainly doesn't have any intentions to change that on our end. And that's not to say that somebody couldn't be convinced to sell their 2 acres to somebody who wanted to change that. But as Ryan stated, there would be a public process for that, and you would definitely get to have your input on whatever it was they wanted to do.
Thanks, Robbie. Thank you, Michael, for leaving your email. If there's anything that we need to follow up, we'll definitely get back to you.
So for anyone else with questions, you can put those in the chat or unmute yourself. We're happy to also just take them that way as well. I'm not seeing any, so we can make sure you guys will give you back 30 minutes of your night. So it's our information is there in front of you, or you can go to the website as well. In the chat, we also put the direct link to the forum. So if you want to share that with people, that will be open through the end of June, and we'll be providing additional details of some of the meetups we'll be doing in June as well. Ambika, anything else?
No, thank you so much, Sana. It's very good. Thank you, Robbie and Brian and all the staff. And we are available. We don't have to come to you. You don't have to wait for the meeting. Anytime you want to contact us, we are available all the time. So thank you so much for joining us.
We have one more raised hand, Darlene Justice.
Would you be able to come to a North Tempe neighborhood meeting? They're going to start letting us use the Multigen Center in June. Would that be something you might be able to do?
Sure, Darlene, if you want to send me the date, then we can make sure that we can get someone there.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, darling. Good to hear your voice.